Hi folks, and welcome to another 9th battle report. We've got the Vermin Swarm versus the Dwarven Holds. We're going to start off with the classic deployment and breakthrough for the scenario. We're going to start with my opponent's turn, the Vermin Swarm deployment from right flank to left. So we've got 2 units of 2 Thunder Hulks. Unit of, was it 27, 28? 29 clan rats. The rattling gun.
Yep.
Behind that he's got his BSB on the monstrous rat. His pendulum with his general. He's got a 1-up,
2-up and a 4-up.
2-up, a 4-up ward with a whole load of frenzied, hatred, poison attacks coming at me. A couple rat swarms. Getting into slaves, and that's a unit of like 30, 40 or so. Some pendulum, sorry not pendulum, some plague disciples there, 10 of them. Another unit of clan rats with a level 2 in it. Another rattling gun. They are your gutter runners, but they're not called, what are they called now?
Gutter blades.
Gutter blades now, sorry guys. Rat swarms, gutter blades, grenadiers, and not that we're supposed to know that, but he's got an assassin at the back. Spells for my opponent, he's got Mind Razor, Devouring Darkness, Orb of Blackness on his general, and he's got Turn to Smoke and Glimpse of the End on his level 2. So we're coming into the right hand side deployment for the dwarfs. We've got 18 greybeards with shields for better armor saving and shooting, and great weapons for combat. 24 deep watch with my BSB. He's got a 1-up and a 5-up and a 4-up in combat for shield wall. The Anvil of Doom. 25 King's Guard with full command, and in there I've got my general on a throne. He's got a 1-up and a 4-up with a Rune of Might and Rune of Resilience. We've got a organ gun and a cannon, both rune crafted, and on my far left here I've got 37 warriors with hand weapon, shield and throwing weapons. So obviously with the anvil becomes the Rune of Shattering, the Rune of Storms and the Rune of Cleansing. And dwarfs get first turn, so I think I'll put down these, being a Vermin Swarm place, that are like 7 or 8 units to get down, and also I've got a unit of miners to come on in the second turn. Vermin Swarm have vanguards, brings us 2 units of nasty poison gutter blades up on the table, and we'll go into turn 1. So for the first turn in dwarfs, sees the warriors doing a swift reform and just marching the normal move, trying to get into range for shooting. There's only a couple of dudes in there in range, but we'll be hitting on 7s. Everything else just moved forward 3 inches. So not a fantastic movement phase for dwarfs. So very quick magic phase for the dwarfs. I tried to get off the Rune of Shattering, but the Vermin Swarm managed to dispel that. I roll 10 to get off the Rune of Storms. Unfortunately for my opponent, he only gets a 9. So I kill 5 of them, and he passes his panic test. A very poor shooting turn for the dwarfs. Sees these guys doing absolutely nothing against them, not one single 6. Organ gun causes 2 wounds off these dudes here, and the cannon goes for the Thunder Hulks in the corner, who's just in range but rolls a 1 and completely misses. Turn 1 Vermin Swarm sees the Grenadiers moving up from the corner, coming up the flank there. The Gutter Blades come out to play, march forward, as do the remaining 2 from the other unit. Just try and chaff up my big block there. Swarm moves forward, Rattling Gun and the Rat at Arms stay where they are. The Plague Disciples just move forward their normal move. The slaves stay where they are. The swarms come forward. The general stays behind the hill but brings his BSB out. This rattling gun moves forward, as do the other rats in arms, and his Thunderhawks are coming very swiftly down the right hand side of my flank. Vermin Swarm magic sees the orb of blackness going off for the obscuring terrain. He's going to try and block out my cannon to his BSB in the corner, and we have done so. He's also managed to block off the organ gun to a few units as well, which I gave him that one. He also managed to get off the Devouring Darkness, needing 13, rolling like 18 on the Kingsguard unit, but unfortunately for him it managed to scatter 5 inches and land just in front of the river. And then he put on Fielder's Assassin, uses his band spell, so it's +3 strength. Shooting sees these guys here, so thank you, shooting at the cannon. These guys fail to wound. These guys do 2 wounds to him, and that's including the assassin in the middle there. And then the rattling gun finishes off the cannon with 1 wound and failing to save. Nothing else shoots.
No, it's the rattling gun already.
Oh sorry, yeah, the rattling gun shot there, but misfires and he can't shoot this turn. Movement for the dwarfs, very short and sweet. No charges to declare, but these guys marched forward 8 inches away from the dangerous terrain there. These guys came forward through, you can't march through the water. These guys, the greybeards, stayed where they are, and we managed to get the miners on at the back there, just behind his general's unit. So we're going to go into some magic. Dwarven magic saw roll 10 for the flux phase, channeled 1 as well, so happy with that. But he managed to dispel the Rune of Storms, and he scrolled the Rune of Shattering onto this unit here, and the Rune of Cleansed his Orb of Blackness off as well, so just to get rid of any sort of line of sight issues for shooting. So shooting wasn't too bad for the dwarfs. The warriors here managed to shoot off the gutter blade unit here, and left them to 2 men, one unit member and the assassin, who failed their leadership and ran. The organ gun, then I decided to go for these guys because of their low leadership, but I did roll a 6 and a 4, so I was actually -1 to hit them as well, so needing 7s to hit, only killing 2 and missing the panic check on them. I think lesson learned, I should have gone for these guys. So that's it for Dwarf's turn 2. So Vermin Swarm turn 2 sees no charges, normal movement. Sees the swarms coming up here to be a bit more of an annoyance. The rats at arm unit shimmies across with the rattling gun coming forward. The Plague Disciples offering a quite an attractive charge there, and there with an 8-inch and a 10-inch charge. Slaves come slightly forward. They didn't, did they?
No.
No, slaves and
maybe an inch or 2.
Yeah, they either moved an inch or 2. They didn't. They've come over the brow of the hill after passing the march test. His BSB's moved there to breath weapon off the miners with his toxic attacks. And as you see on the right flank, the rattling gun, the rats at arms with a level 2, and his 2 units of Thunderhawks come screaming down the right hand flank. And his unit here failed his rally test and ran another like 10 inches, and his grenadiers went into the building. So Vermin Swarm turn 2 magic sees this level 2 here casting the Devouring Darkness, on my general's unit, and I'm suffering like 13 wounds on the initiative test. That's hurt quite a bit quite badly, that one. This one here casts Turn to Smoke on these guys, but fails to cast. And that's it for his magic. Yeah. Turn 2 Vermin Swarm shooting. The Grenadiers shot at the unit of warriors here and failed to wound. The Gutter Blades shot at the Organ Gun and did a wound. The Rattling Gun shot at these guys, the Kingsguard, and did nothing. This Rattling Gun shot at these guys and did a wound. And his BSB on the giant rat did his breath weapon, his strength 3 toxic attacks on the miners and caused a wound. So going into Dwarven Holds turn 3 now. A warriors charged these guys who held and they were auto in. The Kingsguard and the Deep Watch charged the Plague Disciples. Both got in, and hopefully, I know these guys have got a lot of attacks coming up, but I'm hoping to weather that for the overruns onto these units. Might not be a good idea, but who cares? The Greybeards have come back a bit, so they're out of line of sight for shooting over there, but not on this dude, not from the Rattling Gun. And we'll see what happens there. So we're going into magic. A fantastic magic round for the dwarfs. We tried to get off the rune of shattering on the Plague Disciples, which I do. I rolled 4 dice at it and rolled a double 6. My opponent let it go, so I lost the spell, so as a miscast. I also then rolled the rune of storms onto his Thunderhawks, in which my opponent, again I rolled a double 6 only on 3 dice this time, but my opponent stopped that, and I caused 3 wounds on this unit from the rune of shattering. So on to shooting. A really quick shooting round for the dwarfs. I've got many targets, from the Thunderhawks to the Rattling Guns, but I chose to go for the Pendulum. Got very lucky, got double 5, and I rolled like 7 or 8 hits, and I whittled him down to 2 wounds left. So good old Organ Gun. So the Dwarven Holds combat sees the warriors smashing the last of the blades here and overrunning into the swarms. The disciples didn't do as many wounds as we thought they were going to do, and eventually got beaten out by both of these units. Kingsguard overran into the rats at arms, and the Deep Watch here just passed the leadership to pivot, ready for the oncoming charges. So Vermin Swarm turn 3 charges. The BSB went into the miners who held. That's the early charges for them. So the Grenadiers, they come out the building to shoot at the Organ Gun. Rattling Guns just shimmied forward a little bit. The slaves have come up to try and chaff up the Deep Watch. General's unit and the nasty frenzied hatred unit has come up a bit further to, I'd imagine, come on the attack on his next turn. Round the flank, putting these guys here did actually pay off for me in the end, because he had to march these Thunderhawks, brought these Thunderhawks forward, but I am still at -2, I think it was, isn't it, for shooting out, which is fantastic. These rats at arms with levels 2 come up for magic, and the Rattling Guns come up to shoot with them as well. So on to his magic. So a fantastic magic phase for the Vermin Swarm. Fantastic. Yeah, who sees Mind Razor going off on his Rats at Arms unit. The reason being, he rolled like 3 or 4 6s and a couple of 5s, and whatever. Very high. There's no way I could dispel that, so I let it go. On his miscast, he rolled number 10.
My spells.
which is losing his wizard levels, and he's lost all of his spells from that. Lost his rest of his dice, so no casualties taken at all. So we're going on to shooting. So shooting for the Vermin Swarm, since the Grenadiers shoot at the organ gun and failed to do so. Rattling gun gets a misfire and takes a wound and can't shoot this turn. This rattling gun also misfires on double 6 and rolls another 6, so it shoots as normal and then gets removed as a casualty, which it has been, but it does get 24 shots off on the anvil here and only causes 1 wound. And these guys shoot at the anvil again, and they did like 8 hits I think it was, but failed to wound unfortunately. Only 2 rounds of combat for the Vermin Swarm. The warriors take no wounds off the swarms, and we just take them off the table because it's not worth rolling. And here the Mind Razored Rats at Arms cause 6 wounds to the unit. I caused like 10 back or something like that with a charge and a banner. Sees me winning by very, very little, but they are steadfast and stick around for the next turn. Just give you a quick overview of what we look like from the left flank.
Yeah, we had this combat with BSB as well.
Oh, yeah. And we just remembered that BSB here beat the miners in combat who fled, and he turned to face. So movement for the dwarfs in my turn 4, I believe. These guys gone nowhere. These guys just had a swift reform and shimmied behind his slave unit a little bit. A couple of reasons. Really want to try and give him the option to charge him, but make it a difficult one, because he's obviously going to take his chariot through the river to get there. And when he does get in, he's only going to have like the maximum of probably 1 or 2 clip in anyway. And if he does charge, I've got a nice counter charge with my warriors. The Greybeards here do the same, swift reform and a little jig around. Just because I want to take the attention off the middle and bring them onto here, so I've got an option to flee, charges or whatever, and waste shooting for my opponent's turn. And over in the corner, the miners passed their leadership test for the rally and just reformed and moved up. And that's it for movement and charges. Magic quite unsuccessful, although I've channeled for like the probably 18th time in a row. Rune of Storms off on these guys, causing 1 wound. And then I tried to cleanse Mind Razor, but rolled 13 and my opponent rolled 13. So it stays on. Going into shooting. So not a fantastic shooting turn. Organ gun gets like 18 shots at the pendulum, causes 4 wounds. He fails 1 armor save. Saved 1 armor save, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And saved all for 3 of his ward saves as well. So yeah, lucky. The warriors with the throwing weapons shoot at the slaves there and cause 4 wounds. These guys here actually needed like 8s to hit, and these 2 couldn't shoot, so it's, to be honest, 8s and 6s ain't too bad, cause and 4 wounds. So we're going into dwarf combat. So the early combat sees the dwarfs annihilating the Rats at Arms unit. Chose to restrain and just do a pivot there to face the flank of the slave unit, and these guys managed to run away like 6 inches. So Vermin Swarm turn 4 sees the Grenadiers charging the organ gun. The what unit is that? Sorry, the Rats at Arms and the 2 units of Hulks all charge the Greybeards. Now I elected to stay on this just to try and bring them out of the fight a bit more. I sort of used them as a bait, as it were, but I'm sort of regretting that decision a little bit. And being if I fled, I would have been pushed off the board edge anyway, so we'll have to see. I'm going to lose lots of casualties in there, but I might cause a few back with great weapons. That's the early charges. So rally fleeing troops over here, needs a 4 in this unit and he gets it. The BSB shoots across from here. Slaves just move around just to try and harass the units a little bit here, as do the swarms. And the pendulum unit turns to face, either ready for a charge or myself to charge in on my next turn. And this is how the battlefield looks. So a really quick magic phase from the Vermin Swarm. Tries to get turned to smoke off on these guys for -1 strength and fails to cast. So he doesn't get his leadership, and then -1 toughness of these.
I'd have said it wrong. Yeah.
Other way around, so sorry, -1 toughness on these guys and -1 strength on these guys, which I managed to dispel. So into shooting. So again, early shooting, this is Rattling Gun, who gets like 9...
Yeah, 18 shots.
18 shots and hits 9, and he manages only to take 2 of the last 3 of the unit out. The king escapes with no wounds. Does panic the unit, but being leadership 10 with a reroll, sorry guys, he's absolutely fine. So combat for Vermin Swarm turn 4 sees these guys absolutely get annihilated, but run a fantastic 11 inches and manages to escape from the clutches of death. There's no other combat to... Yes, sorry. Combat here with the Grenadiers and the organ gun.
Ridiculous.
They charged in, they didn't do a wound, organ gun did 2 back, and they failed and ran off. So that's a very good combat for myself. So turn 5 dwarf charges. The warriors charge the rats at arms who were sort of this area here, and they elected to flee. Sorry, they're more like this area, and they've bounced through and hopefully going to fail their rally test and run off the table in their turn. So they redirected into what were the rat swarms here, who elect to flee as well, and they ended up down here, and I failed charge at 4 inches and moved just up before the river itself. Movement saw the King's Guard and the King march test and passed okay, and did a full march move out of line of sight of the BSB in this unit. I know it leaves a flank here, but I'm pretty sure I'm happy with that unit grinding down for 2 turns. Miners move up out of line of sight of the charge here, and that was it for my movement. So guys, just giving you a quick look at what's going on. And we're going to go into magic. Dismal magic phase for the dwarves, rolling 3 for the flux. Tried to get the rune of storms onto this Thunder Hulk unit here. Rolled 9, and the Vermin Swarm say, hell no, you're not having that, and roll 11. So we're going on to shooting. Very quick shooting, guys. Organ gun into the pendulum again, just to try and whittle those last 2 wounds off him. Rolled a 6 and a 5, so -1 to hit him again. So hitting on 22 shots on 6s, caused 4 hits, 3 wounds, and 1 wound going through. So he's got 1 wound left. Hopefully about to shoot him off in my last turn. There is no combat, so straight on to Vermin Swarm's turn 5. So turn 5, Vermin Swarm charges, guys, sees the Thunder Hulks coming into the Greybeards, which I elect to stand on that one, because I don't want them redirecting into any of these. So quite important for me in the moment. The slaves just come and hassle this unit again.
Yeah,
that moves up. They're
just there.
They're just there doing not a great deal, to be honest. The BSB comes and puts himself in line of sight in case he fancies a charge here. These swarms here pass their rally test and just turn to face the hill. Just there.
They fail, obviously.
Grenadiers fail and run snake eyes, so they get +1 to run as well, so 3 inches there. And that is it for movement.
No magic.
Forgot to mention, guys, that the unit here failed its rally test, needed the 8, got a 9 and ran off the edge of the table. With no magic to talk of for the Vermin Swarm, the only bit of shooting is the rattling gun, shooting these guys behind the forest, cause 1 wound, gets the unit, saves on a 5, so happy days there. Look at those impact hits from these guys, that is fucking sick. Yeah, so combat then, yeah, with that sort of impact hit, absolutely annihilated the unit. To be honest, I took it off him before the Vermin Swarm player, Danberg, even rolled, so he's just reformed like that to face in his turn. Right, so turn 6 movement and charges for the dwarfs. Sees the Iron Guard go in and the warriors go in on the slave unit. Yeah, more than happy about that.
I'll be alright.
Yeah, it should be alright, fucking hope they're alright. I had a bit of a tinker around with the king. Even though I'm in his deployment zone for these breakthrough objective, I'm not really happy where he sits. So I've obviously got these guys coming into the flank, but any way I move, I've got charges from either of those units, hence why I brought the miners up to try and scupper the BSB. But I reckon I could take that in the flank, to be honest. And that's it for my movement. So my last turn of magic, I used the Rune of Storms on him and threw my maximum amount of dice and got an absolute killing on him, obviously losing double 6 and losing the spell, which doesn't really matter, but that's like prevented any shooting from down here. So we're going to go into my shooting turn.
Nothing still.
This organ gun is now fired from my next list. Shoot to the pendulum again, 12 shots, 4 wounds, sorry, 12 shots, 4 hits, no wounds. Was it 5 hits? 4 or 5 hits, no wounds. So the pendulum escapes with its life, and one wound remaining. That's right. Just as we expected, the slaves went pop. The Deep Watch restrained and stayed where they were, and the warriors overran 9 inches and are well within the deployment zone of the Vermin Swarm, as is the King's Guard. So charges, guys, just the BSB into the miners. I elected to stay because I don't want them redirected into these, even though I do think the King and the King's Guard should take him. Worse things have happened. So no movement down there. They've just moved down here. They've charged into the anvil and they failed their rally again and stay on the table. So no shooting, straight to no magic. No magic, straight to combat. So combat here sees another fantastic round of impact hits. I think it's getting like 17 again or something. Maybe just a little bit less, but I did see at least 2 6s on the dice and a 5, so killed it outright. I think I've managed to save a couple of them, but just not enough. No point overrunning being in the last turn. BSB then obviously just annihilates the miners, kills 3 with the BSB and the rat. I get one wound back and he passes it and then stomps on the other one. So guys, we'll just wrap this up and we'll calculate some points and see what the scores are. Okay guys, so scores on the doors was a dwarf win, not by much on kills, but because I got the scenario, it was something like a 13-7 or give or take, so very, very happy about that. My MVP, I think it's going to have to be the Kingsguard because they've started all the way up here and they've ended all the way down there, and they've took a couple of units with them as well. So yeah, happy about that. MVP for the Storm Vermin.
For sure.
Best unit.
Thunderhawks.
The Thunderhawk, yeah, definitely Thunderhawks are awesome, and all the way around the flank, destroyed the greybeards, destroyed the anvil, and just played silly fuckers all day long. So anyway, guys, we're going to leave it there. I'm going to wrap it up, and hopefully I'll get another one up as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Okay guys, just a very big thank you for Danberg there, not only for the game but also for doing the Giant T intro and the 9th Age one as well. Very, very good intros there, and you'll be able to see more of that 9th Age intro on people like Lord Tremendous battle reports as well. I'm going to shoot off now, so please like, subscribe and comment, and I'll try and get another one up as soon as I can. Thank you very much.